Welcome! We are starting a new project today, and it's one you've maybe never heard of before, primarily because it's something I made up. So it's called Claydonians. As you probably gather from the name, there is going to be clay involved in the process. So we're going to want to make sure that you're getting out your polymer clay for this project. Now, not today. This won't be for another few days before we actually start using the clay. We're going to have to do our designs and our brainstorming. What even is a Claydonian? Right? We got to get to all that information first before we start building. But in your art supply kits, you're going to see some little chunks. Actually, I've got a whole bunch right here. You're not going to have this many, but I have lots of demos to do and things to make. So you're going to have some of these little guys. That's polymer clay. Now, if you're looking at yours and you're going, oh, I don't like this color, what am I supposed to do with this, Mrs. Stinson? Don't worry about it, because towards the end of this project, you're going to have the option, once it's either air dried or baked, you're going to have the option to paint it whatever color you want. So don't get too fixated on the colors that you currently have. If you like them, great, you can keep it that color. If you don't like it, no big deal. As you're going to see in some of the examples today, you can always paint it too. So just wanted to throw that out there as a little like de-stressor. Anyway, what is a Claydonian? What is exactly going on here? So let's talk about that first, because it's kind of hard to brainstorm about something and design something if you don't even know what it is. So here we go. What is a Claydonian? All right, make that nice and big. What could it be? This title doesn't know either. Let's check it out. So a Claydonian is a fictitious species from your imagination, and it is constructed using the following clay techniques. So when you're making these, you're going to want to think of these three techniques in your building process, because when I grade them at the end of this project, I'm going to be looking for these. So, and I just want to make sure we're all clear too. We are using polymer clay. We are not using the kind of clay like if you were in a brick and mortar school, like that kind of white clay that then it goes in a big kiln and it gets fired. It's not that, primarily because, well, I'm guessing most of our houses don't have a kiln. Even mine doesn't, and I'm the art teacher. So I wanted to make sure to find a type of clay that we could use at our own individual homes. So this is a clay that it can be baked in the oven. It is non-toxic. However, if that's going to be a no-go in your home, we'll have other options for you too. So don't worry about that. So it is made out of clay. And when we work with clay, there are 3 Wisconsin state standards that we want to make sure that we are focused on, that you're using these techniques when building with clay to demonstrate that you understand those concepts. So these are the 3 things that I'm going to be looking for, and as you're designing your Claydonian, you want to make sure that you're adding into your design. So the first one is called pinch pots. Okay, so what is a pinch pot? Well, I want you to imagine that I've got a ball of clay here. Here's my ball of clay. It's cool, isn't it? And I make it into a sphere, right? And then I put my thumb down into the center of it and I start pinching, thus the name pinch pot, pinching around the edges until eventually we get a shape that looks like this, right? I pinched it all the way around, and now it's like a little tiny cereal bowl. That's what a pinch pot is. So for our Claydonians, you need to use pinch pots. You're actually going to make 2 of them. And when you make the other pinch pot, so here's my other pinch pot, I'm going to put them together like this. So we'll end up making a hollow sphere. Okay, so imagine like a basketball, for example. That would be, if it was made out of clay anyway, those would be pinch pots, right? So let's take a look at this Claydonian over here. Now this one is made out of that traditional clay that we see in brick and mortar schools. It has to go into the kiln. once again, that's not what we're using in our homes, obviously, but it still has pinch pots in it. So as you're looking at that, can you see, like, what do you think would have been made out of pinch pots? Well, if we're looking at it, it's going to obviously be the entire, like, head slash body. It's like all one thing, right? So looking at that, the whole, like, rounded part of it, those are pinch pots. So as you're designing your Claydonian, you're going to want to make sure there's at least one round spot. Usually it's like the body tends to work well, just because the head, depending on how big yours ends up being, it's really hard to make teeny tiny pinch pots just because of the size of your fingers, right? It's hard to make it really small. So usually it's more somewhere in the body that most students choose to use the pinch pots, but as you're going to see in some of these examples, not always the case. So just throwing that out there though, pinch pots. That's the first of the 3 techniques we need to use when designing our Claydonian. Okay, so they look kind of like this. Okay, so the next technique that we want to use is called a slab. What is a slab? Well, I like to think about if you've ever made cookies before where you've rolled out cookie dough, that's a slab. Okay, so it's just going to be kind of a flat piece of clay, usually about 1/4 inch thick. So you can do techniques like this where you use like a ruler on either side and then roll out, with something round. Could be a rolling pin, could honestly be a pencil. Well, it has to be kind of a rounded one, so maybe a pen, right? We wouldn't want the ridges of a pencil. Anyway, so something like that, just flat slab. So when we look at my Claydonian here, where do you think slabs have been used? So let's take a look. Where on this Claydonian do we think that there could be slabs? So let me tell you, there's a lot. The spikes on the top, that was a slab. So you can see it's kind of flat, and then I took and I carved spikes out of it, and then I attached it from the bottom of the slab to the pinch pots. The wings, every part of the wing is a slab. So the wing itself, I just carved out the shape of a wing, attached that, and then even the circles were just tiny little like slabs I cut circle shapes out of, attached that on there. The eyeballs, every part of it. So there's kind of like 3 parts to the eyeball. The white part that's like down here, once again, just kind of cut out a oval shape, put it on there. The pupil, that's the flat shape, that was just a smaller oval, put it on there. And even the eyelid, I know it looks rounded, but really it was like a half an oval, like that. And then I put it over the top of the eyeball, and it kind of gave it that rounded look to it, but that was a slab too. As we're looking at the eye, another important thing that I want to point out is you can see there's a hole in the middle of it, right? So let's go back to pinch pots. Pinch pots are 2 pieces of, or 2 pots put together like this. So as you can imagine, there's air trapped on the inside. Now, one of the options, the way to make your Claydonian live as long as possible, make it as strong and sturdy as possible, is going to be to bake your polymer clay in an oven. Let's see, this is a long way away from now, but eventually. So think about like an air in a balloon, right? If those molecules are going really fast, usually those air molecules, as they go fast, it tends to expand and get bigger. If it's trapped inside of a sphere, it can, boom, it can explode, or at least create a nice size crack in it, and we don't really want that. So when you're designing your pinch pots, you can think of a way to just add a hole into your design, and that will allow for any of those air molecules trapped inside of the pinch pots to be able to kind of come and go as needed. Now, if it's not going to be a part of your design, like mine has it like right in the eyeball itself, you can always just put a hole using like a needle or whatever on the bottom side of the pinch pot. Just, make sure it's big enough that air can kind of come in and out, and you're good to go. So just something else to keep in mind as you're doing your design. Okay, So far we've got pinch pots. We've got slabs. I said 3 though. Let's talk about the last one. The last one is coils. Okay? So what is a coil? Well, it's kind of like a tube shape. So I'm going to take my clay, kind of stretch it out, and then I'm going to roll it with this part of my hand. Not here, because I don't want little ridges in between. So kind of that flat bed of my hand, rolling it out like that, of course onto the table or work area. And it's going to make a long tube shape. It is not hollow on the inside. It is like solid clay the whole way through. But then I can use it for any kind of tube shape that I might have on my Claydonian. So let's take a look at this Claydonian. What might have been using a coil? All right, let me tell you. The beak, that was a coil. So it was a coil, and it was all the same thickness, but then I did end up pinching it a little bit at the end just to kind of make it, more of that beak shape. The legs, too, often people will use coils for legs or arms, things like that. Because obviously you can see this is kind of like a tube shape, right? So anything like that would work. Now, of course, some of the shapes aren't going to be any of these 3. Like, for example, the toes or toenails, whatever you want to call those, I just kind of pinched into shape. Sometimes it's not any of the 3, as long as there is at least one example of each of the 3. Coils, pinch pots, slab. I can see like, oh, yep, that's where a coil is. That's where a slab is. That's where pinch pots are. As long as I can see each of them used at least once, we're good to go. All right? Cool. Let's check out some student examples. So, remember, a Claydonian can be any kind of combination of things. It might be a combination of different animals, but it doesn't necessarily just have to be animals. It could be animals mixed with other things. Maybe animals with part car, animals with part plant, or candy canes, or cupcake, right? Like, how cute is this little guy? So it doesn't have to be just animals, but usually there's at least one animal or mythological creature in there. So let's take a look at some more student examples. You can tell this one has been painted. Actually, most of them have. This one I actually don't know. I think this one maybe wasn't painted just because I'm not seeing any of those little like paint splatters in there. So it looks like this one is part cat, spider, and donut. Yum. All right, this Claydonian looks like it's part polar bear, snowy owl, unicorn, betta fish, and part goat. So notice you're also not limited to like only 2 things. Like, you can have it be numerous different things as well. Part duck and octopus for this guy. So cute. This one I don't know what it all is. I'm gonna guess like owl, cat maybe. The student didn't write it on here, which is totally fine. But yeah, there's another example. This one you can tell is not painted at all. So once again, you're going to have that option. Or you might paint part of it and not parts of the rest of it. This one I'm going to guess what looks like alligator, crocodile, and maybe golf ball. I'm going to say because of like the texture of the pinch pots. I'm thinking golf ball, but I don't know for sure. This one is dragon, bunny, wolf. Kind of a bat too, apparently. So cute with those big old eyeballs. So adorable. Love it. Let's see, this one looks like a frog, a mushroom, and a cow. Cute. Love these little guys. And so you can see these are just different examples of students creating Claydonians in the past. We're going to get into some more detail about, what it should have, what it shouldn't have, but you can kind of get an idea, okay? So for today, let's take out these supplies. You're going to need a piece of paper, pencil, and something to color with. Doesn't matter what. It can be your crayons, markers, color pencils, whatever you got. Just go ahead and get those out. And basically what we're going to be doing is making something that looks like this. It can be realistic, it can be cartoonish. As long as you're using features from different animals and or items, you're good to go. So in this example here, it's dog, elephant, horse, octopus, and bird. So there's a lot going on in this example here. So before class tomorrow, you're just going to have one potential example of what a Claydonian can be. You guys know one of my favorite quotes is the more ideas we have, the more likely we are to have a good idea. So just because we're drawing one example today, we're not held to it. We are not stuck with it. We will create more, but just we're going to get a start on it. So something kind of fun. Let's go back to this slide. So I've got a wheel for you. So you're going to spin this wheel, and then you can combine whatever the first 4 animals that your wheel lands on. So, whoops, come on, this wheel, there we go. So this is just an idea generator. You don't have to follow it completely. If you've got some other ideas, add yours into it, that's okay. But we can go ahead and give it a spin. Ooh, and a Jamaican boa. What? Okay, and if you don't know what this is, also we can use the Google for that. But it's a type of snake, just heads up. So anyway, feel free to do that. Let's close it. Make sure you just don't remove any of the animals. Just hit close when you're done. We'll spin it again. Ooh, ocelot. What is that? Check that out. There's going to be animals on here. We don't even know what they are. That can help us make even more cool Claydonians by having unique creatures in them. Anyway, you want to use whatever parts of the animal you find interesting. So maybe from the boa, you use the head or the tail. There's not a ton else to it, but yeah, you could use either one, right? Maybe it has horns. Maybe it has scales or some kind of like furry coat, or who knows. You're going to have fun. You're going to get creative. You're going to design something amazing, and it's just the first of many ideas. I cannot wait to see what you come up with before class next time.